Hello, and thanks for watching the Eyes Open Network. This is a update for Monday, October 19th. Just in this morning, actually, the rebels battling the Syrian army and its allies near the Aleppo, which I've put a map up here so you can get an idea if you're unfamiliar with the Middle East. Aleppo is up here in the north of Syria. So this is Syria, and you can see Turkey to the north, Iraqi to the west, and Jordan and Israel down here in the south. And as you can see, in Syria, where most of this fighting is going on, and basically a proxy war, or the prelude to World War III, which is actually underway right now, is happening in Aleppo. So these rebels, there's major fighting going on right now, they just received some more supplies. This is the second known drop of supplies. The U.S. made anti-tank missiles from states that opposed President Bashar al-Assad, who is the president of Syria. So since the major government offensive last week, now remember what's going on here. Syria now is on the offensive, so they're taking back ground that was taken away from them before by the Western-backed, not the United States, not Britain, not Canada, but these funded terrorist groups and formed groups by the CIA and the other Western powers, and that's well known, documented in many different places on the internet. Because if you just do your own research, you can actually find this out, and that's why we created the Eyes Open Network, is so that you would get a perspective or a different view than what is being spun on mainstream media.
I mean, let's remember here, the people we are fighting today, we funded 20 years ago.
These major battles are going on. Syria, his government and his government troops are now trying to take back land that was lost and almost, he was probably hanging on by a thread in Homs, Aleppo, major Damascus, major areas. But now because of Russia last week and the major offensive, as well as forming of ground troops by Iran, reportedly, as well as other countries that support Bashar al-Assad, have now come and started to take ground back. So not only the airstrikes intensifying, but also now the ground war is intensifying. So what is the West doing? What are these moderate rebels, and they call them moderate terrorists? Well, they're moderate because we control them, and the United States controls them. And they're moderate, meaning, yeah, they're terrorists, but they're not that bad. They're moderate. They're not so bad because we fund them. Without us funding them, without us giving them that power, they'd be nothing. That's why they're called moderate. So the heavy fighting going on, and what this has actually caused from these airstrikes and the Iranian putting troops on the ground and fighters in from also as well the Lebanon Hezbollah, where Hezbollah is based out of. Another terrorist group, which is more on the left side, if you will, or the east side, the Iran, the Russian side, the Syria side, all of these countries together, as well as these Hezbollah fighters from Lebanon, are all fighting for land. So now the United States is they're airdropping more supplies in to be able to fight the heavier fighting, because Syria is coming hard now with tanks, artillery, and all this. So they need things like which was just dropped and proven on record, dropped by the U.S., which has made anti-tank missiles to defend against those tanks that are actually coming in to Aleppo. The delivery of the U.S.-made Tau missiles as well to the rebels in Aleppo, which happened last week, and in other parts of Syria, appear to be an initial response to the new Russian and Iranian intervention, as reported by CNN, the mainstream media. And foreign states, like I mentioned before, supporting the rebels include, other than just the United States and the major West countries that we know about, but also Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Qatar are also funding these areas and providing them with weapons and training and all kinds of stuff. So this has caused another thing that I want to report on. from this, because of the heavy fighting that's going on, people are skedaddling. People are taking off. It's reported now by the U.S. Office of Coordinating of Humanitarian Affairs that over 35,000 now, or 35,000 people just in the last 2 days have been displaced on the outskirts of Aleppo. They're trying to get out. But again, just think about this for a moment, folks. I know we live over, I don't know where you live around the world, but I live in a fairly safe place, and I can't imagine this kind of thing going on, and just like it would have went on back in World War II or the previous world wars, but being actually right in the fight of it, and you're just an innocent civilian, and you have no idea what is going on, and you just want to live your life, and all of a sudden, there's fighting breaking out. Actually, World War III is breaking out, or on the verge of World War III. Right now, it's still just a proxy war, okay? Because nobody's, the Americans aren't really directly engaged, and the Russians on the ground are not directly engaged, but they're using airstrikes, just like the U.S. will use airstrikes if it gets heavy. But then they use these on both sides, by the way. So don't get me wrong here. I understand that both groups are doing it. Both sides are doing it, but it's not being reported in the mainstream media like that. It's swayed one way. It's always when there's a pushback from these other countries opposing the invasion of the United States government into these Middle East countries. And I know some people right now watching are just in amazement what I just said. Invasion. That's right. Your country is invading Middle East countries and other countries around the world, and they have for a long time. And that's on record. That's on record from 5-star generals in the United States Army. Again, not reported on CNN, not reported in your local television, not reported like it should be reported. So open up your eyes, and that's why you're tuning into the Eyes Open Network, for us to provide that for you.
About 10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld and Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz. I went downstairs just to say hello to some of the people on the Joint Staff who used to work for me, and one of the generals called me and he said, "Sir, you got to come in. You got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, "No." He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, "We're going to war with Iraq. Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do." So I said, "Well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to al-Qaeda?" He said, No. He says, "There's nothing new that way. They've just made the decision to go to war with Iraq." He said, "I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we've got a good military and we can take down governments." And he said, "I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail." So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, "Are we still going to war with Iraq?" And he said, "Oh, it's worse than that." He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper, he said, I just got this down from upstairs," meaning the Secretary of Defense's office, "today," and he said, "This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran." The truth is about the Middle East is, had there been no oil there, it would be like Africa. Nobody is threatening to intervene in Africa. The problem is the opposite. We keep asking for people to intervene and stop it. And there's no question that the presence of petroleum throughout the region has sparked great power involvement. Whether that was the specific motivation for the coup or not, I can't tell you, but there's always been this attitude that somehow we could intervene and use force in the region.
Okay, that was just a quick update to keep you keep you up to date on both sides of what's going on in Syria. A big battle in Aleppo, 35,000 people displaced, battles, the U.S. government resupplying their supported rebels, their rebels in this proxy war in that area because they don't want to lose Aleppo, they want to lose homes as Syria gets all their land back. And I think something much bigger is coming in the coming weeks, if not days. As maybe I'll say that for another report, though, because if you look at as Syria gains this land back, and especially on the northeastern side of Syria, which gives them ground into Lebanon, Damascus, home, Aleppo, gaining all that ground back. Look how close all of those soldiers are going to be. The built-up forces by the Syrian army. Who knows if there wasn't a trade pact put in place to say, hey, you know what, we'll provide some. The Russians saying to the Syrians, we're going to provide some air support and get your land back, but you're going to need to do something for us after we gain this land back. And I got a feeling, and actually I've read lots of reports, that the next thing coming after they gain this ground back will be a northern attack into the West Bank, into Jerusalem, backed by the Hezbollah forces, or led by the Hezbollah forces in Lebanon, with backing from potentially, I guess, into Syria. And again, I'm going on a rant and probably tying up two different coverages, so I'll make that in another video, and where I get my facts from of what actually I believe, and from what I'm seeing in the reports coming in, what I believe could potentially be also very, very dangerous in an attack very soon to the West Bank in Israel. But I'll save that for another video. Thanks for watching the Eyes Open Network. Again, if you like videos like this and giving the perspective on both sides, or just making you think just a little bit more, maybe we got to slowly get you into understanding that there's always two sides of the story. What we want you to do is believe no one, including ourselves, including the mainstream media. Believe no one. Okay, listen to everybody though. Listen to the Eyes Open Network. Listen to CNN. Listen to the mainstream media. Listen to alternative media, not just this channel, others. Gather all of that information, different perspectives on both sides. Don't just take what's being given to you, and then you make the decision of what you think is really going on. And most importantly, stay tuned to understand what you could be doing to prepare for all these kind of things. Not only just the war, but the coming financial collapse and everything that is all tied and everything is connected together. Okay, so thanks again for watching. Like the video, share comments below. We'd love to hear from you. We're getting lots of comments now. We'd love to hear from everybody on these videos, as well as you should subscribe so that you get up to date on the additional future videos that we provide to you. Again, thanks for stopping by the Eye Open Network.